Opposition Leader Isaac Herzog, thank you so much for speaking to VOA today.
Thank you, pleasure.
I'd like to start by asking you about the Iran issue. It was discussed, obviously, by Vice President Pence in the Knesset today. How much of an agreement or disagreement is there between the opposition and the coalition in Israel on how to deal with the Iran situation and the problems that Israel sees with the nuclear deal?
Look, there is no difference between us and the government, or between me and the Prime Minister, as it pertains to the Iranian nuclear threat. And we've made it clear in the last few years. We cannot express an opinion right now as to the position of the waiver or not the waiver, or issues pertaining to the agreement itself, until we know further. We've heard the Vice President. We are grateful for the support of the United States and the understanding that Iran is the biggest threat to the region. We hope the agreement can be amended in a way that enables further security elements to be taken into account. For example, the Iranian activity in the region. For example, what happens after the end of the term. And I prefer to leave it at that.
Do you have any position on Iran's testing and development of ballistic missiles, which currently is not explicitly banned by the deal?
Look, we definitely demanded that it would be banned from any deal, but I want to make it clear. Look, there are partners to this deal, and that's the P5+1. They're part of the deal, nation states or members of the Security Council. I think one needs to understand the whole position. I think these nations need to come along and be part of a process of a dialogue with the Iranians that leads to an amendment of the deal. I wouldn't want to make declarations that can undermine the success of these amendments.
Do you feel that the position of President Trump, which is basically to have an ultimatum to make changes in 4 months or the U.S. leaves, is that kind of ultimatum something that you see as helpful?
Well, first of all, I take what the President intends to do. I think needs to be calculated in everybody's consideration. Without the United States, the world is in a halt, in a shutdown, in a way, in many ways, and that needs to be taken into account by the members of the Security Council, the P5+1, as well as by the Iranians. We repeat and reiterate the fact that Iran is the biggest threat to the region. We feel it, we see it, all our neighbors feel it and see it. They are spending billions of dollars on undermining regimes, on spreading hatred, on spreading terror, on supplying our enemies, on bringing the region to the abyss. They have expansionist feelings and aims, and they are dangerous. So in this respect, we have no daylight. Namely, we don't argue at all with the assumptions of the President. Now let's see how one gets to the new goal, which would, in order to safeguard world peace and security and regional peace and security.
I'd like to move on to the issue of Jerusalem. And Vice President Pence did reveal today that the move is going to happen by the end of next year. How much of this news today was expected to you, and what do you think of it?
Well, we have commended and congratulated Vice President Pence on the decision of President Trump. I expressed it with all my heart at the plenary of the Knesset today as leader of the opposition. It was a well-deserved decision. Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the Jewish people and of Israel. And in this respect, it only made justice. I did also mention that in the President's speech on Jerusalem, he made it clear, and so did Vice President Pence here, that the limits of the sovereignty, the borders of Israel's sovereignty, will be determined in final status negotiations between us and the Palestinians. And that leaves, of course, room to be discussed in the deal. And the thing is that the deal is so far away, and the situation is so fragile and explosive, that we need to do whatever we can to prevent any further deterioration and actually move to a breakthrough and break the impasse.
Is it the position of the opposition that you should not encourage the United States to maybe recognize or declare that parts of eastern Jerusalem are actually part of a united Jerusalem, or do you think that would be going too far?
I don't think it's relevant right now. We need to move to a process. We need to find ways whereby we can bring along the Palestinians and the Israelis to a process. I think the regional opportunity is huge. It's huge. And that can serve as a platform to bringing the sides into the room. And between you and me, millions of people all around the region are yearning for peace. They don't want further bloodshed, Christian, Muslim, or Jew. They want peace. And it is our duty as leaders to try to do it and leave aside inter-religious conflict.
How would you do it differently than the current Prime Minister?
Oh, by far. I said it in the elections in 2015. First of all, I would have gone to Ramallah, where the Palestinian government sits, and I would have made an emotional call to the Palestinian people to come along for peace. I would have frozen settlement construction out of the settlement blocks, those who have to be part of Israel proper in the final status agreement. I would have come forward and said, bring along the administration and the international community as to kind of lead from behind the parties into a room and negotiate on the basis of a regional opportunity as well. There's a huge opportunity here. There can be an incredible new regional configuration which serves the security and the well-being of all peoples of the region who are fighting extremism such as ISIL or Iran.
How much concern is there in the opposition that a move of the U.S. Embassy next year on an expedited basis could further exacerbate the anger that many Arabs feel about this decision?
Look, let's be frank about it. The whole world is coming to Jerusalem to visit our government, to the Knesset to visit our parliament. I meet world leaders on almost a weekly basis. They're all coming to Jerusalem. They know it's our capital. Let's take that fallacy off the table that it's not our capital. It is our capital since 1949. And therefore, I don't want to use rude words, but it's nonsense and rubbish to play this kind of, embarrassing, childish behavior as if it's not our capital. It is. And it's a just cause that was done correctly by the President of the United States. I want to reiterate, however, as I made it in the plenary, that the boundaries of our Israeli sovereignty needs to be determined at the end by negotiations with the Palestinians. That's the given. So if the Americans move their embassy somewhere near this area, near the Knesset, near where everybody visits, near the Israeli government compound, it cannot serve as an embassy. It's a joke. So I think everybody needs to take that off the table and move forward, and let's start in finding a way to move for peace.
Opposition leader Isaac Herzog, thank you so much for speaking to VOA's Persian service today.